If I may, I thought the question was what complaints did he hear that he thought were possibly serious in nature?
Yes,
Yes.
okay, great, thank you. What egregious complaints did you hear?
There was some of, so sorry, the question of things that, can you ask the original question again? I apologize.
Yeah, you said that there were some very serious things that you heard and you took notes on, um, bef- after you sent out that email, and I'm asking you what serious complaints you heard, egregious serious complaints.
Sorry, I thought the question was things that were not included.
Today.
Oh, no, I talked about today. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Um, so one officer mentioned there were a few times when they thought they smelled alcohol on the chief's breath, or that he might have been impaired, either in a police vehicle or in the station.
And who brought that up?
Can I?
If I may object, again, I'm not sure what use there is in naming an employee on a subject that ultimately was determined not to be part of the manager's disciplinary decision.
I think it's extremely important. If it was someone that came here today and testified and didn't bring it up, or if it was, why wasn't this brought up? If I would like to hear the whole story about this.
So
I
I
think
will
it's
say
important.
it is not the basis of any discipline. So I'm not totally sure why it's relevant to this Loudermill type appeal. But I believe I understand the purpose behind your line of questioning, and I will allow it. So proceed. And if you, Mr. Duffy, if you recall the question, you can answer it, or if you need it repeated, you may say so.
Can I repeat it, please?
Who told you that?
Officer Tarleton.
And when did you determine that there was no basis for that?
I believe in their investigation, Mr. Burgess decided it wasn't something to pursue.
Well, Chief Swanson was never even questioned about it, correct?
I I don't have a memory of all the transcripts, but I believe he was not.
So Officer Tarleton never even mentioned it in the Burgess report, correct? When he was asked about any unprofessional behavior.
I don't have the transcript in front of me.
We can look at it, but I can represent to you that there is nothing about Chief Swanson having any alcohol in that Burgess investigation.
Okay.
So are you saying that he did mention it?
In the Burgess report?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I said it on the transcript in front of me, so I can't speak to it.
Okay. So assuming that it just that complaint disappeared even before Mr. Burgess wrote his report, how was it dismissed? How did you determine there was no basis for it?
Another officer said that they didn't think it had happened, and there was no other evidence to prove that there was, and they didn't come up with any other officer.
But it came up with one officer and you decided not to pursue it.
The fact that he did not bring it up in other conversations, and he was very careful in his conversation. They said he wasn't sure, but he had a thought that it could have been, that he might have smelled alcohol in the breath, but he wouldn't say that it was like definitely the case.
And then you decided on that basis that was one of the reasons you decided to conduct the investigation into Chief Swanson?
It was the totality of the complaints that led to the investigation.
But that was one of them, the one that didn't pan out to anything?
It was one of the many ones.
There were many that didn't pan out to anything?
No, in general, many of the many complaints.
So other than what we heard today, are you saying there was anything else significant or serious that you heard, that you took notes on, that you didn't disclose?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. So in any event, you decided within a few days to have Mr. Burgess involved in an internal investigation, correct?
Yes.
What authority did you have to promise confidentiality to the people that you were talking to?
It was my goal to keep this process confidential for everyone involved.
Under what authority?
So the people who spoke to Burgess would never promise confidentiality from him.
I'm not asking about Mr. Burgess. I'm asking what authority you had to promise confidentiality.
As a supervisor, I was not going to release their names.
So is the answer no authority?
I believe I have the authority to have conversations with employees.
I didn't ask about that. I asked what authority you had to tell them that their complaints, such as the alcohol complaint, were confidential.
I believe, I don't have it in front of me. It would remain confidential until the conclusion of said investigation. So it wasn't confidential forever until the investigation was complete.
What authority did you have to tell them that it was confidential for any length of time?
I'm not understanding the question. It's been asked multiple times.
But it hasn't been answered.
Presupposes there must be some authority for him to say that an investigation that's been commissioned by the manager's office, he needs somebody's permission or something to have confidentiality over it. That's what the question presupposes. So I don't think there's foundation for it.
So I do think that a supervisor has at least some implied authority to maintain the confidentiality of an investigation, to maintain its integrity at least during it. I did hear the witness also answer your question, and maybe it wasn't a satisfactory answer, which I can understand. He basically said, I thought I had the ability to do that.
Okay, we can move on. So by October 20th, you were looking for a investigator, correct? Just a few days after the October 13th incident, you were looking to hire an investigator for an internal investigation, correct?
On investor counsel, yes.
Okay. And you did in fact hire Mr. Burgess on October 25th, correct?
I believe that's when the contract was signed, yes.
And that was to conduct a comprehensive evaluation regarding the activities, behaviors, and administrative practices of Police Chief Joe Swanson, correct? And I will refer you to one of my exhibits. The exhibit is 21, and it would be under work specification.
Yeah.
Okay. That is the Burgess contract. Okay, I think it's time to get some of these exhibits in as well. I would like to move to get in the exhibit 21 and 20.
Exhibits 20 and 21, counsel, any objection?
I would first ask, what's the potential relevance of the contract with the investigator? Oh, I'm sorry, it did have the scope of the investigation, correct?
Correct.
Yes, okay, I take that back. 21 is fine. And 20 is fine.
Thank you.
20 and 21 are admitted.
Okay. So in the personnel policies that were in effect up to the first set, whenever they were changed, but this is the first, sorry, let me find where I want here. Okay. All right. Let me see what I've got. All right, hold on. This is I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. In Chief Swanson's contract, his employment contract, there was a provision that if there were any issues with his employment, that you were supposed to deal with it at the lowest possible level. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And do you consider conducting a internal investigation dealing with something at the lowest possible level?
Yes.
You considered that? Let's look at the contract. Sorry. All right, I got it. So, oops, it disappeared. It's Exhibit 6. And it's under, keeps disappearing on me. 6. It's under, why is it? I'm sorry, I'm having a glitch here. I think what happened is it did not, the whole contract did not get in here. It's, oh, I see. All right. I got it. Sorry about that. Here we go. So under termination. Let me see, where does it go?
It's back to Exhibit 6.
All right, I'm sorry, it's D. Page 5, D. Here we go. Employer and employee agree to act in good faith, and any differences that arise between them shall be worked out at the lowest possible level. Do you see that?
Yep.
And you're telling me that you think launching an investigation is the lowest possible level?
What I'm saying is, at that point, we didn't have any differences because we're investigating we're investigating the complaints.
Okay. And there have been other Woodstock personnel policies in effect at various times that advised bringing concerns about employees, staff complaints, first directly to the immediate supervisor. Do you know that?
Can you tell me what you're referencing?
Yes, I can. This is in Exhibit 22. Okay. All right. And this is page 5. What? Oh, it's not screening. It's screening. Okay. Let me see if I can get page 5 up.
Counsel, what exhibit are we looking at now?
7.
Okay.
Oh, I'm on the wrong page. Hold on. Page 5. All right, here we go. If an employee believes that they have a legitimate work-related concern, the employee is encouraged to first attempt to resolve the issue through discussions with their immediate supervisor within 5 working days. That was a policy that was in effect. This was the first one that was in effect through August, correct?
Correct.
And you removed this as well when you were revising the policies, right?
I believe so.
Can I ask, what is the relevance of this line of questioning?
Yes, the relevance is that even if it's not part of the official policy, that you certainly believe that this is a good policy, correct?
The policy pertains to approaching a supervisor about issues, not a supervisor approaching their supervisee about issues.
No, exactly. An employee is encouraged to discussions with that would mean Chief Swanson's employees would be advised to discuss their problems with him, right?
But just so I understand this, I was taking notes, so I don't think I was listening carefully, so I apologize for that. But
Okay.
which employee are you referring to in this scenario?
The employees that are under Chief Swanson, if they have a legitimate concern, they were supposed to be encouraged to attempt to resolve the issue with Chief Swanson, according to this policy, correct?
And I'll allow the question for the record.
Yes, it is. The old one.
The old one.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that was the old policy, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But you agree, don't you, that that is a reasonable idea in order to foster sound employee-employer relationships, which is what it also says, correct?
Um, I won't say I agree wholeheartedly. There are situations where employees are afraid to talk to their supervisor.
This policy was in place for several years, correct, before you changed it?
Yes.
Okay. And are you saying in this case you didn't think it was a good idea to try to have the employees work out their problems with the chief?
I can't speak to individual employees and their concerns. At this point, I was getting numerous concerns from numerous employees all at once.
And you didn't suggest to any of these employees who allegedly came to you to complain that they try to work out their issues with Chief Swanson?
No, because the time the totality of it was concerning to me. It wasn't a single issue with a single employee. It was majority of all employees with the majority of the wide range of complaints.
And you actually prohibited these employees from discussing any work-related issues with Chief Swanson because he was out on leave, correct?
No, Chief Swanson was prohibited from engaging in chief activity while on leave.
Well, we had gone over the emails earlier where staff was instructed not to speak with Chief Swanson, correct?
Because he was not supposed to be doing any job-related activities.
Right, so they could not speak with him about their complaints, even if they wanted to.
There would have been no work-related conversations while he was on admin leave.
Chief Swanson asked you several times if he could talk to his employees about the no confidence vote, didn't he?
Not directly, I'm aware of.
Did you tell him he could not speak to his employees about the no confidence vote? Either yourself or through...
The admin leave agreement was that he cannot engage in any workplace work.
Now, in your 1017 email, let's just go back to that for a second. It's Exhibit 19. We didn't actually get to the second page of that last time. Let me put that up on the board. Let me, here we can, here we go. You said to your employees at that point on 1017 that you wanted everyone that worked for Woodstock to feel comfortable, supported, valued, and empowered to succeed, correct?
Yes.
Now, Chief Swanson was someone who worked for you, wasn't he?
Yes.
So you weren't concerned about Chief Swanson wanting to feel comfortable, supported, valued, and empowered to succeed.
I want all my employees to feel that way.
So you're seriously claiming that conducting a secret investigation into unofficial complaints was the way to make him feel supported, valued, and empowered?
It was a confidential investigation into official complaints.
And you didn't consider how the process you were choosing would impact Chief Swanson's reputation, authority, and the staff's respect for him?
My duty is to the municipality of Woodstock and to do its best for them and to make sure that every department runs functionally.
But my question was, did you consider how this process that you chose would impact Chief Swanson's staff, how it would impact the authority and respect that his staff might have for him?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, did you consider how the process that you chose would impact Chief Swanson's authority and the staff's respect for him?
Yes, I consider it.
And you dismissed it?
I dismiss it. One of the reasons why I try to keep everything confidential was to keep that intact as much as possible.
You know that in a small agency, people are talking, right? You didn't really think they weren't talking to each other.
Well, I think we know now they were complaining about him already to each other.
And you can imagine that, it's reasonable to assume that that increased as a result of this investigation.
I can't assume that now.
Okay. Vermont State Police concluded there were no criminal charges on November 5th, 2024. right? We've already been through that.
Yep.
And that Chief Swanson requested reinstatement that day, correct?
I don't know if it was that day or not.
Soon thereafter?
Uh, I don't have that in front of me, but if it was, it would have been through his attorney at the time.
Okay, but you said no and you asked to meet with him instead, correct?
Correct. And just for the record, when I did try to reach out to Joe individually, I was told by his attorney not to.
Right, but
Yeah.
but you said no, he was not going to be reinstated.
In that meeting we had, I said that we were going to look. We're going to have an investigation.
And you were still saying that investigation was about the October 13th incident, correct?
Yes.
You didn't tell him at that point of all the other things that you allegedly heard.
Our counsel did later that day to his attorney.
Pardon me?
Our counsel did later that day to his attorney.
Are you talking about a letter on November 26th?
No, there was a phone call between town council and Chief Swanson counsel on that day after our meeting.
Okay. And you told him that he was under investigation for misconduct at that point?
I believe it was where it launched an investigation into possible. Sorry, I don't know what word you used.
You continue to not make any comments to your staff or the public about what was going on internally, correct?
Who do you refer to as staff?
The officers. They continue to believe that Chief Swanson remained under investigation related to the initial incident, correct?
They were aware that the investigation was also going on from the complaints they brought to us. And as you know, up until February 20th, I did consider actions on October 13th with things I was considering.
Okay. And then it looks like on November 7th is when you sent that letter to Sergeant O'Keefe, that's already in evidence, asking him to forward to the staff an email to advise them of the opportunity to speak to an investigator about complaints.
What exhibit is that?
26. It's the one I went over with Sergeant O'Keefe, because it was to him, correct?
Yes.
And this is the one you told him that Bill Burgess was coming to town hall to be available for any employee, and that it says that you wanted him to know that if there's been any violations or lack of professional duties, this was their opportunity to let Mr. Burgess know, correct?
I said, can you let us up? My wording was, can you please let the employees know of this opportunity?
Correct.
Me and they had Bill Burgess was coming if they wanted to talk to him.
Okay. And then you set up the interviews, correct, for these employees?
I did not set the interviews now.
You worked with Mr. Burgess to set up the interviews, or had some of your staff do it, right?
I don't recall, but I believe Mr. Burgess was the one who was organizing the meetings. But I don't recall specifically on that.
Okay. All right, Mr. Burgess told you that he told you on October 25th that he wanted to talk to you about the investigation and how we want to structure the interviews the following week.
Mm-hmm.
So you and Mr. Burgess were discussing setting up the interviews and how to structure them the following week, correct?
Yeah, I think we picked out a week to when the interviews could happen, when
Okay.
they'd be available.
I would like to admit number 27, please.
Any objection to Exhibit 27, Counsel?
No.
27's admitted. Counsel, we've been going for an hour and 40 minutes, and I'm not cutting off your cross. I was thinking we would take a break.
Okay.
Is that all right?
That would be perfect.
Yeah, okay. Let's take 10 or 15, shorter if we can, for a bathroom break, and then we'll get back to it at, let's shoot for 9:50 if we can, so we can keep going. And no discussion with counsel about. Counsel?
Thank you. Mr. Duffy, you talked a lot about the no confidence vote and how bad it would look if people quit, staff members quit, correct? If Chief came back.
Yes.
You agree that employees do not have the right to vote their boss out of their job, correct?
They don't have the statutory authority to, no.
Okay. And you certainly wouldn't pack up your desk if you received a notice that your employees wanted to oust you.
I want to use the word oust in the scenario. I think this letter says more than that. I think it goes into detail of why they made the decision they made.
Okay. But you, in fact, have had several employees quit in the past year with complaints about your management, right?
I've had
Objection.
one. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I mean, the relevance here is hearsay, relevance, you name it. I can't understand why this would be any grounds to go forward.
The relevance is obvious. He's saying that he's extremely concerned if officers quit, but he's not concerned about his employees quitting. And this is documented.
Yeah, I think the relevance is, I think it ought to be focused on the police department, and I don't think the manager is on trial. This is it's not the same as it would be in a standard court proceeding. I think in a Loudermilk type proceeding, it needs to be focused on the employee, and I don't think the manager can be put on trial. So I'm gonna sustain the objection.
So I cannot ask any further questions about all of the employees that have quit in the past year.
If it's as to the manager, correct.
Okay. Okay. You eventually took the information from Mr. Burgess's investigation and wrote up a letter to Chief Swanson advising him of pre-disciplinary measures, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that was after Mr. Burgess spent over 56 hours, about 7 to 10 normal work days, investigating Chief Swanson, correct?
That's what his invoice said.
Okay. And Chief Swanson fully cooperated in your investigation and was interviewed by Mr. Burgess, correct?
He was interviewed by Mr. Burgess, yes.
He fully cooperated, correct?
I did not speak to him, but Mrs. Burgess said that he did.
Okay. So let's take a look at the allegations that you made on January 10th. And before we do, I also want to make sure that it's understood. You took the Burgess report and you sent that to the council, correct? After that was finished.
Yes.
And you sent, so the council, when they found no unprofessional conduct, had all of the information that you were relying on for the disciplinary letter on January 10th, correct?
I'd want to look through this.
Okay,
first
let me
before-
get you a reference to it.
No, I have it. I just want to make sure there was.
It's Exhibit 37, and I'd also ask that that would be admitted. But it says, let me get this up. It says that on December 19th, you sent the Woodstock internal investigation, your review of the allegations, and the road rage incident at that point.
No, sorry. I was looking at the letter I sent to see if it all matched up with the.
No, let's look at Exhibit 37. That's what I'm really asking you.
Yes, I sent it to
Okay,
them.
I just wanted to make that clear and ask that that be admitted, just before we start talking about the letter, that this was in fact, that you had sent them everything that you had at that point, correct?
That is incorrect for one thing. Number 11, the logged evidence was not in the Burgess report.
You're right, excuse me, there was something you found after the Burgess report, but you sent everything other than that, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, and that was in December.
Yes.
Okay, then you didn't get a decision from them from some time, but in the meantime, you wrote that pre-disciplinary letter, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to look at that. That's the one in January.
Which exhibit is it?
January 10th.
36.
Okay. All right. So let's just go over them briefly. One of the first ones, that's no longer an allegation against Chief Swanson, correct?
Yes.
Now, all of the allegations here were things that you claim you discovered after Chief Swanson was placed on administrative leave, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we've got 11 different allegations here. Let's quickly just go over them. So the parking ticket is no longer an issue, correct?
It was not included in the later letter now.
So you took that out?
Yep.
Okay. But you didn't take it out until after January 10th. Oh, you didn't take it out until actually almost to the point where you were issuing your final decision, correct?
I don't understand the question.
Well, this remained active in terms of your complaints against Chief Swanson. All of these remained active until you demoted him, except for the first one.
I still don't understand what your question is.
Okay, let me see if I can clarify it. We'll just go through them and we'll talk about each one. So you took the first one out when you demoted Chief Swanson, correct? The second one, when did you take that out?
I believe that was not included in the February 20th Lattimore letter.
Okay, but when we look at that letter, it says that you're still referring back to some things that occurred earlier, correct? In fact, you're still talking about, let me see, there's another one in here that you're still talking about, right? The death investigation, you're still talking about that, right? You're still talking about the out of uniform.
There's a lot of questions on the table, Council. Can
I'm
you just
sorry.
take them in turn? Like
Yes,
break 'em up,
I'm
please?
sorry, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I will try to be clearer. All right, so let's go through them one by one. Like I said, that's probably easier. You took out the parking tickets at some point
So sorry, I just want to be clear. So when you say I took them out,
as an allegation against Chief Swanson.
Okay.
For reasons for his termination
Okay.
or demotion or whatever you're calling it, right?
I still don't understand the question. Took them out. Meaning
As a
what?
charge against Chief Swanson.
So like in late February, took them out.
Yes,
Of the final notice.
yes,
Thank you.
okay. You took that out, the parking tickets, right?
it was no longer being considered, yes.
Okay. But you're still, even through this hearing today, you're still talking about the fact that Chief Swanson consulted with his husband about an incident and shared some information with his husband. That's something you're still talking about today, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that comes from the original one. And that incident refers to Chief Swanson consulting with his husband for legal advice about a road rage incident involving Trustee Khan, correct?
I'm not sure what Chief Swanson's intent was when he shared the information. His partner is not an attorney who has a contract with the municipality.
That's not what I asked you. We'll get through this much faster. I'm just asking you if well, actually, I even forgot what I asked you now. So let me just ask you something again. This situation arose out of a situation which Chief Swanson consulted with his husband, Attorney Selden, about a road rage incident involving Trustee Khan. Whether you think that was okay or not, I haven't asked you. I'm just saying that's what it's about, right?
If you want to use those words, yes.
Okay. And that was one of the things that you sent to the council that they decided did not constitute unprofessional conduct, but that you're still keeping alive, correct?
So again, I just want to be clear that there's two tracks here. One is what the council's looking at, and one is internal municipal
I understand.
policies.
I understand that. I'm just asking you, after you received the no unprofessional conduct about this incident, you still kept it alive.
It was still part of my consideration, yes.
Okay. And the same thing with regularly ordered dispatchers to sign you in the early morning several hours before leaving your home. You
Yes.
kept that in.
Yes.
Now, Chief Swanson had denied some of these things, but you decided that his denials were not credible and you were going to keep them in, keep the charges against him anyway, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the conducting personal business while on duty was also part of the information you sent to the council.
Correct.
And you decided to keep that alive as well, even after they found no unprofessional conduct. Is that right?
I will say yes to these as long as we are clear that I believe there's two paths. If
We
agree-
understand
if
that.
we agree to that, then I'll agree
We
to that.
understand that you believe that,
And not that I believe that, I was told by them.
okay. So they found no unprofessional conduct about the out of uniform in office while on duty as well, but you decided to keep that alive on your separate track, correct?
Correct.
All right. The same with the death investigation. That is still alive up till today, correct?
Correct.
And that was part of their finding. And then there's the thing about failing to procure video evidence in a timely manner. That was the teenagers urinating on M&T Bank. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's still part of your allegations today on your separate track?
I don't believe we specifically say that. I think it falls more under just not completing work in general.
Well, is it part or is it not part of your allegations on your separate track?
I don't think we specifically, I don't say I specifically labeled that on the letter too, but it would fall under the broad brush of not completing work on time.
Are you still accusing Chief Swanson of taking, of being inappropriate, not paying attention to the video evidence from M&T Bank?
Yes.
Okay. Failing to take disciplinary action against an officer in relation, that's the things that were discussed today, correct? That was
Correct.
Officer Murphy's complaints about Chief
Corporal Murphy, yes.
Corporal, I'm sorry. And then there was another one. In my opinion, you showed a lack of empathy for your subordinates, and that's still alive, correct?
Yes.
So somehow you came to a decision about Chief Swanson's lack of empathy that served as grounds for discipline against him?
It was based on how employees told me how they felt.
And you decided that warranted your separate track investigation?
Can you guys ask that question again?
Yeah, that's one of the ones you've kept alive on your separate track, is that he showed a lack of empathy for subordinates.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you understood that Chief Swanson had a schedule that required him to work beyond the normal hours of work, correct?
He had a schedule, but the contract says you work beyond standard hours. which I interpret as you have your 40 hours, but the expectation is you work beyond those 40 hours as well.
Right, that he could not accomplish within a conventional 8-hour workday or 40-hour work week his duties, correct?
I don't think that's the intent, is that there are times when you have to work beyond that.
Okay. Attendance at night meetings is expected and required component, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I think you testified today that you were unaware that Chief Swanson was sometimes taking an hour to go to the gym and then making it up later in the day. You were unaware of that?
I was unaware of the frequency that it had happened. Like I said before, I have flexibility for my staff at certain times, but I was unaware of the amount that was happening.
But you certainly knew that at times that he did that he went to the gym during the day and then made it up later in the evening. You were aware of that?
At the gym occasionally, but at the same time, I was unaware if he was at the gym, if he was taking time off, he was off that day or not. I didn't know if he was actually maybe working that day or not.
Well, if he takes time off, he has to clear it with you, right?
He's supposed to, yes.
Right. So if you saw him at the gym during the workday, working out at the same time as you, and you knew he hadn't requested the day off, you would have said something to him, right?
I would have. I also may not have remembered that if he requested a day off 2 months prior to that.
Okay. You never indicated that you had a problem with the chief's schedule, correct?
What schedule?
His schedule of going to the gym in the day sometimes and making it up later. Let's talk about just that.
I was unaware that was his schedule.
But you never told him any problems with his schedule, did you?
I was unaware that was what he considered his schedule.
So since you were unaware, you didn't tell him. That's reasonable, right? You can't tell him if you weren't aware.
Yes.
Okay. And you certainly didn't give him any notice that this kind of his working out his schedule that way could be grounds for termination, did you?
I was unaware of it, so I couldn't.
Okay. And he was, okay, for the uniform situation, that didn't violate any uniform policy of the Woodstock Police Department, did it?
I don't have the uniform policy. Is that part of your exhibits?
No, but you never included it, so I'm assuming that,
It's actually your exhibit 54.
yeah, we have an exhibit, but
Yeah.
I'm saying you didn't include it in your exhibit as one of the policies that he violated, correct?
I did not.
Okay. And you never spoke to Chief Swanson about his uniform issue before October 13th?
I was unaware of it at that time.
So you, obviously you couldn't give him notice that this was cause for termination if you were unaware of it, right?
I can't speak to someone about things I'm unaware of. Correct.
Okay. And you never told Chief Swanson that not completing a death investigation for several months would be a cause for termination, correct?
No, but I think there's expectation on a chief on what they should and shouldn't be doing, and I don't think it's my job to hold their hand.
We're just talking about notice now, notice to Chief Swanson. In terms of that issue with the teenagers urinating at the bank and the video evidence, you never gave him any notice that that could be cause for termination.
Again, I was unaware of it at the time.
Okay, you never gave him any notice that accepting or deciding how to appropriately discipline an officer that his subordinates disagreed with would be cause for termination, correct?
No, but I don't have. It might be one of the job, part of the job description or the contract that he's supposed to follow.
But I'm saying you never personally gave him any notice about that.
No, but again, it would be in his contract or job description.
That failing to,
It was one expectation.
Procure-
Sorry, go ahead.
are you saying that failing to procure video evidence on one occasion in May 2024 would be something that he should have noticed would be cause for termination?
I thought we were talking about the death investigation, I believe.
The what? Oh, I'm sorry, the disciplinary, yes.
Yeah, this one, yeah.
Yeah. So you're, the same question, you're claiming that he should have known that,
I think someone should know that what their job description is and their expectation to follow that job description, and if they don't, there are consequences to that.
so it doesn't matter to you whether Chief Swanson had actual notice of any of these issues before October?
I'm not saying
13th?
that. I'm saying that there should be an awareness of what the job description and requirements are.
But the only thing I asked you is whether you gave him notice, and can we assume the answer is no?
No.
All right. And did you ever give him notice that showing lack of empathy for a subordinate was going to result in discipline or
No.
termination? Pardon me?
No.
Okay. And that lack of empathy allegation, that actually came out of an incident that occurred when Chief Swanson was initially being charged with not showing up at the police department when there was a threat of violence, correct?
I don't know if it was not showing up. I think it was just Can you repeat the question so I have another second to think? So,
Did you initially believe that he had not shown up he had been called and did not show up for a threat of violence?
Yes.
But that turned out not to be correct. He wasn't asked to show up, correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
So instead of charging him with not showing up, you decided to charge him with lack of empathy arising out of that incident.
Correct.
And you've never seen his phone log that shows that he called 10 or 11 times that evening to check up on his employees, correct?
I've seen the phone log. I've seen our phone log internally, yes.
You haven't seen his phone log to the
No.
department. Are you aware that he called many times that evening to check up?
I was aware that in the phone log there were a few calls back and forth.
But you don't know how many?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay. So this allegation is just based on your personal assessment of Chief Swanson's lack of empathy in that one instance, correct?
It was based on how his employees felt he dealt with that incident. But as we found out today, there have been other instances where employees felt something similar.
Is there any work standards that you're referring to that are established for empathy ratings?
Again, I think the job description of leading and supporting your employees.
And you believe you're capable of assessing Chief Swanson's level of empathy based on complaints by his employees?
I believe you can get a sense of them, yes.
How would you rate your actions toward Chief Swanson on the empathy scale?
In what sense?
In the past 5 months?
I've tried to keep this confidential. I've not made any public statements on it as much as possible. So I've tried as much to keep it as quiet as possible for his sake.
This allegation about the Apple Watch failing to log that, where did that come from? That wasn't in the Burgess investigation.
After that, I believe the person whose watch it was either called or came into the department looking for it, and the employees on staff could not find it in the evidence locker, could not find it logged, and then someone found it in a paper bag in the dispatch room.
You found these, you found, again, you made a charge against Chief Swanson based on something you found in a locker room and didn't know where it came from?
No, what I said was the evidence was not in the evidence room. It was not logged. It was in a paper bag in the dispatch office.
And somehow this became an allegation against Chief Swanson?
Correct.
And that was all it was based on?
Based on not handling evidence correctly, yes.
is there any notice to Chief Swanson that this could result in his termination or demotion?
No.
You found these allegations against Chief Swanson alarming. That's how you referred it, correct?
I don't have the thing in front of me, but I'll take your word for it.
You also said that based on the number of incomplete tasks, you thought you were going to find more tasks as time goes on that he hadn't completed, correct?
Yes.
The number of incomplete. Oh, I'm
There's an
sorry.
objection.
So I believe all of this line of questioning is all about the January potential discipline notice, which was superseded, as we've been over many times already today. And a number of the things that are being discussed were taken out of play, if you will, after the employee and his representatives had a chance to respond to the allegations or the concerns that were put forth in this letter. So I don't know why we are spending so much time talking about what was in a January letter that was presented to the employee. The employee was given a chance to respond. After hearing the response and looking into additional information, I think most of that list of items that was just presented were removed from consideration. They didn't appear in the February 20th letter, which was then, a reference point for the ultimate decision. So why are we spending an hour on things that are not anything the trustees have to decide?
Attorney Frost.
They are part. That's what I tried to clarify, and I found out that most of them still are part of his separate track investigation. It's what he told me.
Go ahead.
Well, I think it's due to, frankly, fatigue from the questioning. He testified clearly on the record earlier that if you track backwards from the February 23rd notice, which incorporates the February 20 notice, those are the grounds he relied on. So I think there's just confusion happening here, spending all this time unnecessarily on things that are just not anything the trustees have to consider. I will tell you right now that regardless of what, I'm sure Mr. Duffy will agree, that the number of the things that were just described may have been things that he was thinking had to be investigated at the time, okay? But they are no longer grounds for part of his decision for the demotion. We've already had that testimony today, so we're spending a lot of time going down things we do not need to pursue.
I think Attorney Klesch is testifying opposite of what his client is testifying about in terms of the validity and the ongoing impact. People came today and said things about several of these things, and they're clearly still part of the the charges. So I don't understand the whole situation. That's what I'm clarifying. If they were gone, I would move on. But every time I ask one, he tells me they're still being charged because he's on a separate track.
Well, I think what I've heard is that some of these are still in play and part of the disciplinary proceedings, and some of them are not. And I think my difficulty is I want you to have a full-fledged cross. You're entitled to that. The employee is very much entitled to that. But I do hear that there are some things that I think are out of play. And so I guess I don't want to make a ruling to limit you from asking questions, but so I want to be very clear about that. But I also, just given the late hour,
I understand it. I'm doing the best I can. And if he had told me they were all out, I gave him that opportunity at the beginning. If he had said they were all gone, I wouldn't have to go through the list.
Okay. Maybe what you could do is go through them in a really succinct
I
fashion.
try.
This one,
I
this one, this one.
try. I will. But you know what? The fact is we've gone through them. So we're moving on. So we can all move on. Okay. So you spoke, after you issued this letter, you spoke, you requested, you sent the letter, you still hadn't received the Vermont Council decision at that point. That didn't come until much later, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you met with me and Chief Swanson.
Correct.
And Chief Swanson offered to address and change what you would like changed moving forward, correct?
I don't think he said in that words. I think he said things along the lines of, if I can't wear If I have to wear a uniform, just tell me. If I have to take sick time, just tell me. And I'm willing to change, I think were quotes I remember.
Okay, but he offered to address the issues that you had raised, even if he didn't understand them initially or know that they were anything that was upsetting to anyone. He offered to work with you to address and change things moving forward, correct?
To some degree, yes.
Okay. In fact, didn't he even offer to establish written protocols and clarifications to ensure compliance with your wishes?
I don't have my notes in front of me, but I won't dispute that.
He expressed his commitment to correcting any misperceptions concerning his leadership and activities, right?
Again, I don't have my notes in front of me, so I can't speak to that.
Okay. He offered to let this go and move on without any grudges against anyone, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay. And he offered to waive any claims against you and the town arising out of any actions up to that point, didn't he?
I don't know if that was at that point or later. I can't remember.
Okay. You made no decision after that meeting for several weeks, correct?
I made no decision until my letter on the 23rd.
You continued to keep him out of work on paid suspension after that meeting without issuing any orders. Is that right?
So after that meeting, it was my responsibility to go investigate what Chief Swanson had said in that meeting and look into what he said and what we had talked about to see whether to see what the next steps were.
Okay. You demanded that Chief Swanson participate in mediation with you, correct?
That was because we were threatened with a lawsuit, and based on the contract, we thought mediation was necessary.
Okay. You learned on February 10th that the Vermont Council found no unprofessional conduct. That's when you learned about that, correct?
That's when I received the email, yes.
And then after that, you conducted an additional investigation back into the transcripts that had arisen from the Burgess interview.
We were looking into all the details of what we had in front of us.
After the Vermont Council found no unprofessional conduct on the Burgess report that you sent them, you went back to the transcripts of each of these employees and pulled out what you thought were various allegations of unprofessional conduct that had not been initially addressed by Mr. Burgess, correct?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. After the Vermont Council found no unprofessional conduct, you went back to the Burgess transcripts and pulled out additional information to follow your second track of accusations against Chief Swanson.
No, we were just looking into all the details, and investigation from the council just came back at that time.
Okay, so it was just coincidental. You were looking back at the transcripts to find additional allegations against Chief
We weren't
Swanson.
looking for additional allegations
Well, what were you looking for?
to get the full picture of what Burgess talks to employees about.
In order to write your second letter.
No, to get all the information that we could have in front of us.
But you had the transcripts from the Burgess investigation months before that.
No, I did not know.
You're saying you just got the transcripts from the Burgess investigation at the same time that the Vermont Council found no unprofessional conduct?
We had the attorneys had their recordings of the investigation, and we didn't get transcript of them until later.
Well, you ordered the transcripts so that you could go through them to find more allegations.
We go to the transcripts so we go through them.
Okay. You had this separate track that you were on that was different than the conclusions of the police professionals that you wanted to continue to investigate. Is that fair?
No.
Tell me why.
The Vermont Council had their statute they were looking at, and we had our own internal investigation, and those were concurrent since October 14th.
Okay. And at some point you went through those and you pulled out things that Mr. Burgess had not found he had not put into his report. He had not found significant enough, or for whatever reason, he did not put it into his report, but you found additional things from those transcripts. Is that fair?
I'd say that or just more details.
And those details all went into your second letter.
Uh,
Is that right?
I don't want to say that all of them went in there. No,
Well, many of them went in, correct? That's when you wrote about the messy desk. That's when you wrote about various things that you pulled out that the employees had said during their interviews. But you also included other things, the same things from the January letter in that February 20th letter, right?
we did. I did, yes.
Okay, so it was a combination. You had some things from the first letter, and then you had these other things that you pulled out of the transcripts. Is that right?
Also involved in that was the February 20th incident as well, that I included.
Yeah. You're not trying to claim today that you were ready to put Chief Swanson back to work, but then he went to the police department and you decided to demote him. You're not claiming that, are you?
I'm claiming that what happened on that day was a factor in my decision.
Right, but you're not claiming that you were ready to send him back to work as chief, but for that incident.
I had not made a decision on the 20th yet.
Okay, so are you claiming that that was the catalyst, that's why you demoted him? The February 20th incident?
No, if you look at my demotion letter, I lay out my reasons why.
Okay, so that was just one factor. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And in your February 20th letter, you talk about the general feelings that your employees had, a lot about their general feelings, correct?
Is that a quote or you just talk about it in general?
No, I'm saying that's a quote, general feelings, correct?
I just want to read it before I confirm it. We're in the.
Well, you know what? Just because of time constraints, we can move on. I don't really need an answer to that. It speaks for itself. Now, I will say though, in this letter, you were still talking about your disappointment about the October 13th incident and telling Chief Swanson that you thought that no reasonable law enforcement officer would act as he did that day. Any responsible police chief would not have acted as he did that day. That you're still saying that even after the council and the Vermont State Police had issued orders on that.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Getting through this. Chief Swanson had not been prohibited from interacting with staff, correct? You had told staff not to talk to him about work, but he was not prohibited from speaking with them, correct? About other things.
That is correct.
Okay. And there was no rule prohibiting Chief Swanson from sharing that Vermont Council letter to try to restore his staff's trust by showing that a professional agency cleared him of misconduct, was there?
I don't think there was any.
Was that an answer? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm thinking. If you give me a second, please.
Well, you know what? Let's move on again, if you can't answer the question.
As long as I can't answer, I just want to. I prefer to answer it intelligently, so I just want a second to review the letter before I make a comment.
You have to review the letter to determine if there's no rule prohibiting Chief Swanson from sharing that letter.
Are you looking for the administrative leave note?
I'm
Yes.
going to,
Yeah.
It's town exhibit 2, if that facilitates moving on.
you know, I'm moving on because it's too late. You don't have to answer the question. I withdraw it. Let's move on. Unless you want to answer right now, if you found a rule that you think.
I mean, the language here, during this leave, you're not to perform any services or any other activity related to your position of employment with the village or town unless directed otherwise. So you can make the case that walking around with a letter about your employment would be in violation of that policy.
And you didn't accept Chief Swanson's response to you in writing, in response to that first letter, that it was a genuine misunderstanding that he thought he had permission to enter the police station. You didn't accept that, correct?
Which letter? Sorry.
His response to
The February 20th?
when he told you that it was a genuine misunderstanding, that he thought he had permission to enter the station. You didn't accept that as true.
No, it's very clear in the letter that he should not access secure areas of police headquarters without prior approval from me, and he accessed secure areas of the police department.
And you've accused Chief Swanson in your letter of not taking any responsibility for his actions. Is that right? In your 220 letter.
What did the exhibit again? Sorry.
It's hold on. It's 45 hours. It's also in the other one. You've also testified this on direct, that you thought he didn't take responsibility.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if your question was in general or a specific thing. That's why I wanted to look at the letter before I answered.
I'll give you the quote. Throughout this process relating to your administrative leave, you have taken little, if any, responsibility for your actions, choosing to try to explain them all away or blame them on others.
Yes,
Okay.
that's accurate.
That's what you said.
Yep.
So you were upset that Chief Swanson would not take responsibility for allegations for which he was cleared by the council, correct?
Brian, where is the letter that you're referring to? We're also,
It's 220, it's
is it your exhibit?
it's in both exhibits, but it's
Yep.
the pre-disciplinary hearing notice of February 20th, 2025. Mine is 45, and I'm sorry, mine are so messed up, but that is without the binders.
It's exhibit 45.
Yes,
Can you just give us a second to catch up?
yes, I'm sorry. Probably in my wanting to get this over, I'm going too fast, but
I want to be able to pay attention to it.
I know, it's so late.
It's also number 28 for the managers. of the
28 for the manager. It's probably easier to find. He's way more organized in terms of the exhibits. Okay. So we were talking about the accusation about the failure to take responsibility, okay? And you agreed that that's what you wrote. I quoted it. And then my question was that you're upset that Chief Swanson won't take responsibility for allegations for which he has been cleared by the council.
Again, I would not use the word upset. I never use that word.
Disappointed.
Again, I want to use that verb in this context, that it was just like what I considered a fact.
You're accusing him, though, of this in a negative fashion, correct? That this is not a good thing.
Correct.
Okay. And what you're claiming is an accusation, not a good thing, is that he won't take responsibility for allegations for which he was cleared, right?
So again, that was them clearing them on their path, not the internal municipalities.
And you're blaming him or whatever word you want to use, accusing him of not taking responsibility for defending himself with explanations of the charges against him when he was invited to do so?
Are you talking about his response to my
Yes,
February 28th?
yes.
What I'll say is that I did not feel that he was taking responsibility for his actions.
And he was fighting to return to his job, correct?
Those are your words?
Well, how would you describe it? He wanted to return as chief, correct?
That's what he said, yes.
Okay. And he was not willing to just leave the position because of these allegations, and that's one of the things that you're holding against him?
So I can repeat that question?
Yeah, you're holding it against him that he wasn't willing to just leave his position when you asked him?
No, the comment was that he wasn't, in my opinion, taking responsibility for his actions.
And you said he was blaming them on others?
Yes.
There's no evidence that Chief Swanson is blaming anyone except you for how he's been treated since October 13th, is there? Is there?
Can I have a moment to think, please? I can't think of another example right now.
Okay. On the home stretch here, you demoted Chief Swanson on February 23rd, correct?
That's incorrect. I sent him a demotion letter. He's not demoted until after this hearing and the trustees make a decision.
But it was your decision that he should be demoted.
Yes.
And it took you several more days to decide what he was going to be demoted to, correct?
No, we just didn't include that in the original letter.
But you didn't, did you?
So we didn't include it in the letter, no.
Right, so several days later, you decided what he should be demoted to.
I think several days later we were asked and we supplied the answer.
Well, were you not planning to say what rank he should be demoted to?
Yeah, I was.
When were you planning to provide that without being asked?
At an appropriate time or a time short thereafter.
When would that be?
I don't have a timeline in frame, I'm sorry.
Okay. You said, determined in your letter there was no potential for Chief Swanson's rehabilitation.
Correct.
None, right?
Yes.
You gave him no opportunity to remedy any of the complaints that have been brought up today or in your letters. No opportunity, right?
That's not true because he interacted with staff on the 20th and that interaction left him feeling threatened, unsafe, and uncomfortable. So he was aware of how they felt and his first interaction with them was a very negative interaction.
Mr. Duffy, that's not my question. You gave Chief Swanson no opportunity to remedy the complaints that were brought up in your disciplinary letters or today. You have not given him an opportunity to remedy those complaints, have you?
I would say that some of those complaints were how he interacted with staff, and when he had an opportunity to do it, they felt very uncomfortable and unsafe with him.
Are you saying that February 20th was his opportunity to remedy
I think it
his
was an
complaints?
example of how he would act if he came back as chief.
But you didn't give him an opportunity to do that. You just assumed that that was how he was going. He might pass out things or say he was coming back. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying he was insubordinate to the admin policy, and he two employees that he interacted with felt very uncomfortable and unsafe in that interaction.
So is that the only reason you've determined he has no potential for rehabilitation?
Nope, that's just one of them.
Okay. So all the other things that are not about the 220, you decided he had no opportunity to remedy.
We have a no confidence vote from all of the people who work underneath him, with the vast majority of them saying they will leave if he comes back due to how he's acted as chief in the past. That's not going to be able to be fixed, and it's going to leave us with a non-functioning police department.
Mr. Duffy, I only asked you, I understand you have reasons, but the fact is he has had no, you've given him no opportunity to remedy these complaints.
I think that example is one that can't be remedied.
All right. In making your determination of no potential for rehab, you didn't take into account that he has no past disciplinary record, did you?
No,
You didn't take into account that he's had no prior notice, official notice of any of these accusations against him before October 13th?
correct.
You didn't take into account his stellar work record for years preceding October 13th?
I did. That was one of the factors of demotion, knowing that he would come back as a police officer and still serve the community well.
But you determined there was no potential for rehab as a police chief, and when you did that, you didn't take into account his stellar work record according to your evaluation for the year that he was in fact chief, correct?
Yeah, and again, that review was based on not all information that had been occurring.
As a manager, you know that if there are performance issues with employees, employers are generally expected to provide feedback, coaching, and training to help employees improve their performance, correct?
Yes,
In fact, when you applied for your job at Woodstock, you emphasized your desire to empower staff to reach their full potential, correct?
yes,
You remember that?
I do.
Okay, that's something you pride yourself on.
It is.
And that's Exhibit 51. And before I end up here, I'm going to ask if I can please introduce 24, 25, 26, 27.
Slow down, just a second. Gotta get that pad out. Yep. So you're offering those
have it.
four, or
Yes.
or you keep going?
30. How far did you get?
Well, let's start with 24 through 27, and 27 is admitted already.
Okay, you're right. It was.
So, as to 24, 25, and 26, council, is there any objection?
24, 25, 26.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I think we were at 20 and 21. We hadn't, have we admitted those already?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, we got them. Okay,
All right.
all right. And then we're skipping this bunch we don't need. 30, and then down to 34.
But hold on. Just
Oh, sorry.
starting at 24, we haven't had any testimony about 24.
What is that one?
It's a memo from.
Yeah, no, that, you're right. I'm sorry. We don't need that.
Okay. So 25
Yes,
is
25.
the emails between Mr. Duffy and John Lipman. We haven't heard any testimony about that.
There was testimony about it, but the exhibit wasn't introduced. It was about how he did not inform the media of anything after that. But I
Okay.
didn't show the exhibit at the time.
Okay. Okay. And then we'll come back to that in a sec. And then 26 is the email about that's to Acting Chief O'Keefe, and 27 is the Burgess email. So 25, 26, 27. Any objection, counsel? To those being admitted. And It's actually just 25 and 26,
So
because we did.
26, don't see relevance, but will not object. 25, that's the same comment. I see no relevance, but won't object.
Understood, they're both admitted 25 and 26. Carry on?
That's in there, so it's okay. 34, 35. Some of these are duplicates of theirs, so but we might as well. 34, 35, 36, 37. I think we're up to date with that.
All right, let me just look at those and then see if there's an objection.
I'm reading you. Yeah, you. What's that? Oh. I think I got 61 in already, right?
Put that to the side for the moment if you can. So let's just want to see 34. The thing is, it looks like it skips from 33 to 35 in my version.
Yes. No, 34 is the Burgess investigative report. I think you've got that in yours too, though, right?
Okay, so
Burgess report.
we already have admitted 35, 34, 35. I still don't know what 34 is though.
34 is the Burgess report.
Okay.
He's just going to get a water. That's okay.
Yes. Okay, it just doesn't say 34 on it. So
At 39.
okay, so 34 through 37, council, any objection to those?
34 is okay. Burgess report. Burgess hours, 35. Okay. 36 is the January 28 letter that's already in, so okay.
Yep.
37, is that just offered?
Yes, it's the emails with Ingrid Jonas.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay, so 34 through 37 inclusive are admitted. And then, council, you just asked about 61.
Yeah, that was my errant one.
This thing?
Yeah.
I don't know that that's been offered or that we have seen
No,
that.
it was just floating around. I'm fine with not having that. It's been in testimony.
Okay.
And I will finish up momentarily.
Okay. The witness has absconded to the bathroom, so bear with us. Different or what?
Yeah, there's a typo on the Verizon one. It's 55. It's missing a 5, so it should be 55.
Yes, okay. Have we lost Brenda? She stepped away for a moment? Brenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, are we?
We're just waiting for Brenda to grab some water and we will recommence very momentarily.
let's just treat them as they come. We'll get there.
Okay.
All right, counsel, you may proceed.
Okay, almost done here. And before we took a little break there, Mr. Duffy, I think you agreed that that was one of the things that you pride yourself on is helping your staff reach their full potential, like you wrote in your
Yes.
cover letter. Okay. And you're certainly not claiming that demoting Chief Swanson to a patrol position is empowering him to reach his full potential, are you?
What I'm saying is that right now, I don't believe he has the ability to be the Woodstock police chief.
And you don't think his full potential is to be a chief?
I can answer that question. I don't know.
Okay. And you also testified that you were concerned about the reputation and risk of liability to the town if Chief Swanson is reinstated in officer's leave, correct?
Yes.
What about the risk and are you concerned about the reputation and risk of liability to the town if you unlawfully terminate or demote Chief Swanson?
Objection. That's argument. That's not a question whether there's just cause here.
Counsel, can you repeat the question for me? I apologize. I'm taking
can.
notes.
I asked, since you heard the preliminary question, which was the foundation, is he's concerned about the risk of liability to the reputation of the town, reputation and liability to the town if the officers leave because Chief Swanson is brought back. So I asked him if he was concerned about the risk to the reputation and liability of the town if he unlawfully demotes or terminates Chief Swanson. That was all.
It's relevant, and I will allow the question. Proceed.
As I said in my earlier testimony, the contract gives me the ability to terminate based on personnel policy.
And you do understand that it has to be for just cause, correct?
I follow what the contract says.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Any redirect, counsel?
I do have a few questions.
John, come on.
I think counsel asked you whether. I think counsel asked you whether you determined you, quote, could not use that, quote, referring to the October motor vehicle incident. And I want to ask you, is it more accurate to say you chose not to rely on that as a grounds for discipline? I believe counsel also.
Sorry, Attorney Frost, can you just turn that off while we're,
Sorry,
thanks.
I can turn it completely off.
I think counsel also asked you if you were, when you were talking about people potentially quitting the department, she actually, I think, said that you were concerned about how bad it would look. And is how bad it would look your main concern about people possibly leaving the department?
No, it's how bad it would be for the department and the village as a whole.
Okay. Do you have the town exhibits there still, the manager exhibits, I should say?
Yeah.
Can you turn to item 10? And is that the February 6, 2025 outcome letter from VCJC?
It is.
Okay. And I think we heard questions asking you about whether you continued to look at this issue, that issue, et cetera, even though VCJC found no unprofessional conduct. Do you recall that line of questioning?
Yes.
Okay. And I ask you to look, please, and tell the trustees what VCJC said they found in the negative, where it reads, regarding a potential allegation. Can you read that point to where it says to the end of the word incident?
Yep. Regarding a potential allegation of Vermont Statute 20 BSA 2401, an allegation of violation of the unprofessional conduct, failure to report an incident.
Okay, so failure to report an incident is what VCJC was replying that they were not making a finding on.
Objection, it says a lot more than that. It speaks for itself. It doesn't say that they've limited everything was sent to them. It does not say that.
I'm gonna.
It does say
overrule the
that.
Objection because, first of all, the document does speak for itself. Second of all, there's more questioning which I expect to give us full context, and in that instance, it would be appropriate. So carry on, please.
Well, I guess my question is, beyond what is reported here, do you know for sure, one way or the other, whether VCJC has made determinations on any other information that's been submitted to them?
I do not.
Okay. Now, I think counsel asked you the question whether his conduct, Chief Swanson's conduct violated a uniform policy. Am I remembering right that you were asked that question?
I believe so, yes, or that we didn't reference the uniform policy in our letter.
Okay. Well, I think the question, if I remember right, and I could be corrected if I'm wrong here, was that you found it didn't violate a uniform policy. And so I'd proffer that we have the uniform policy here, and I think the door's been open that we should look at it, and Mr. Duffy should be allowed to say whether or not what he's learned from the witnesses indicate that Chief Swanson did in fact violate the uniform policy.
I think that's an appropriate line of questioning, given that the door is open.
I'll bring this over to you. So I'm approaching because this is from, actually you have the exhibits.
Yeah, what exhibit is it?
So it's in the Chief's exhibits, and so it's 54. It's about 2/3 of the way back. Let me know when you've been able to locate it.
I have it here.
Okay. Wait for the trustees to catch up.
This is policy 308, is that right?
Yes.
The 54?
If they'd like to look on my copy, they can.
These folks want to get it themselves, I think.
You were able to find it, Eric?
I was, yes.
Okay. Well, I think we'll be able to publish some of it through the testimony.
Yep. I'll hand this to them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Carry on.
Okay. So, Eric, we're looking at Employee Exhibit 54, Swanson Exhibit 54, Policy WPD 308, Uniform Policy. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and it looks like it's a 13-page document.
Yes.
And I just want to ask if you can highlight a few items here. So in B1, would you read that second sentence, please?
B1.
Yep.
It is therefore extremely important that all employees project a positive and professional appearance at all times while on duty.
Okay. And then if you go down to section C, it has different classes of uniforms.
Yep.
A, B, C. And do you see where in Class C, 2B, it talks about what kind of T-shirt is allowed to be worn on duty?
Green and blue polo shirt or department T-shirt with embroidered Woodstock badge and police printed on the back.
Okay. And what does number 5 say?
Attorney Klesch is testifying by pointing out things. He's giving his opinion of what the uniform policy might. I mean, normally it wouldn't matter, but this is going on a long time.
Yeah. Can you ask an open-ended question about this? Ask the manager to point to sections that he believes may apply in the instance?
Well, I thought I'd point him to the sections and ask whether he can say whether the testimony he's heard leads him to decide it has or hasn't been violated. I think that's an open question.
Let me try this. Mr. Duffy, could you take a moment and look at this section and see if there is any provision that you believe the employee violated that also is part of your disciplinary charge in this instance?
Is it possible to have a pen so I can make notes? when I
Sure.
come back?
Yep.
Could this be any smaller? It's 11 p.m. at night.
And while he's doing that, I want to make clear, in case it affects that we're introducing this information, the uniform policy was not cited in the predetermination notice or the decision letter. But again, the question was asked whether his conduct did or did not violate a uniform policy.
I understand that. So on that basis, I'll allow it. I was just trying to get him there in a way that's not objectionable as fast as we possibly could in the circumstances.
If I can help, I mean, I would say that I don't see there's a need for Mr. Duffy to look past section C, other than maybe section G11.
I'd like to point out what he thinks is the violation of the uniform policy. I mean, I don't really understand this whole line of questioning. I did ask, my point was that Mr. Duffy had not included this uniform policy in, he's had a whole lot of time to be looking at these policies.
So, Mr. Duffy, do you have an answer to any of these questions? Or
Yeah, so I think we stopped at CB, which is the green polo. I would also cite C5, which is states department approved baseball caps are optional. However, no other caps of any type may be worn. I did not hear of E1 of any inspection of uniforms. F1, supervisor will attempt to rectify inefficiencies out of scope of the employee.
I could, yeah, that's okay. It's a hard job, Eric, to try to go through this policy. I'm gonna,
And G8, that's what the boss want to add.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say that I think that's enough of an answer, and if we can stop the witness,
okay, thank you.
okay. And so I would move the admission of Swanson Exhibit 54.
Oh, I thought we got that. No. Yeah, fine.
Okay. Exhibit 54 is admitted.
Okay. I think the last question I have for you is, council asked you, I think, a series of questions asking if a specific issue was something that you thought Chief Swanson should know was grounds for termination. Do you remember that line of questioning? She went through a number of things and said, do you know if he had noticed that was a grounds for termination? Do you know if he knew?
Notice, yes.
Okay. And I just want to ask, to be clear, that of the numerous things that have been cited in the evidence and in your documentation, did you terminate him because of any one specific issue?
No,
What is it, in fact, the nature of the reason?
there's a tally of old complaints and evidence combined.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Just one follow-up.
Yes.
If you thought that the Vermont Council had not considered all of the allegations against Chief Swanson, wouldn't you be obligated to provide them a new statement of all the allegations so that they could evaluate it?
So it's confidential, so I don't know what they have or do not have. I'm not able to get any information from them at all.
That was my question. Shouldn't you be providing them with the new information if you believe they didn't take it into consideration?
What new information are you talking about?
The information that you say they didn't take into account. According to your attorney's questioning, I thought you were testifying that they had not taken into account all of your allegations against Chief Swanson. This doesn't require research. I'm just asking you a question.
I want to look back at the letter, because I think that's what we're referring to as.
It's Manager Exhibit 10.
So what they're stating is an allegation of violation of unprofessional failure reporting incident, and the conduct did not meet legal definitions, so no finding.
My question was, if you think there's things they didn't take into account, aren't you obligated to provide them at this point to the council?
No, because this is a separate incident.
Okay. And you do agree that the Council of Law Enforcement Professionals has more experience in evaluating the types of conduct that meet unprofessional conduct than you do as a town manager, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
No further questions.
All right, thank you very much. Attorney Flesh, is there anything else in your case in chief?
No, do they have any questions for?
Board members, do you have any questions for this witness? Okay.
Okay, and no, our case in chief is concluded.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.